Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover 120 here, and I'm here with episode 3 of my Halloween Horror Movie Review Season 2. And of course, this episode is going to be for the sequel to the movie I reviewed yesterday, or last night, depending on your area. And that is going to be for none other than Eli Roth's sequel, Hostel Part 2, released in 2007. A year and a half after the first film was released. So, around the summertime this time. So yeah, we all remember when Hostel got released to the general public in January 2006, it was split. It had some split reactions. Some people loved the concept, and some people just viewed it as another gratuitous mess from Eli Roth. And I gotta say, I'm split on the first film. I love the concept of it, I love the gore of it, and I mean, you gotta admit, it has a pretty terrifying concept, depending on, even regardless of your opinions on the movie, the concept is pretty genius. I mean, a torture chamber, a torture organization, killing a bunch of young backpackers for profit and stuff, that's not a bad concept for a horror movie. But of course, despite that, it made about nearly the same amount of money as the first Saw movie at the box office, just 20 million less, with 80 million worldwide on a 4.8 million budget. So, we all knew what that meant. Time for a sequel. And it was Eli Roth kind of rushed this sequel to kind of like how Saw rushed their sequels. They always, a year after the first one, every sequel they released. This movie was no different from that. And so around June 2007, Eli Roth released Hostel Part 2, June 8, 2007. And how did it do? It got much less good reviews than Part 1. Critics gave it a pretty bad 44% on Rotten Tomatoes. Fans of the first film often consider this to be among their most hated sequels, because I think it's just the same thing as the first movie and stuff. Like, plus they really did not like the controversial opening scene. And in box office, it got pretty bad at the box office. It only made a pretty bad 17 million domestically, almost the same amount the first movie made in its opening weekend alone. And only 35 million worldwide, and Eli Roth considered this due to piracy. Ouch. Let's just say he never directed another movie again because of that until 2015's The Green Inferno. But anyway, what are my thoughts on this movie? Well, guess what? I'm going to get a lot of hate for saying this, and people are going to get so mad, they're probably going to unsubscribe me for saying this, but I am not one of those haters. I actually consider this movie way better, so much better, and more tolerable than the first film. I think this one does everything better the first film failed to do right. There's better opening half, like, actually can get straight to the damn horror for once in this movie. There's no, like, annoying... But anyway, I'll just explain the plot. Three female college students take a detour from their partying, and, and teased by a beautiful European woman who promises seclusion, safety, and maybe even romance. What they get is a living hell where they are sold to the highest bidder, whose fondest wishes to kill them slowly. Kind of like the first film. However, there's also a bit of a difference in the plot. There's also a subplot involving two American men who, on the flip side of a coin, are willing to pay to join an exclusive club where a life will end at their hands, any way they like. It's a story of human monsters and the almighty dollar as only Eli Roth could tell it. So yeah, I'll get it out of the way. First off, that this thing is the extremely entertaining sequel. Does is whip two dreaded slasher sequels cliches at us, and it does everything better than the first one did. Everything, like the exposition of the first one, the unexpected switches of focus on characters done in the first one were fine, but the effect was light, and we're given very interesting broadenings of the story. Like, there's still, I mean, yeah, there's still some of the annoying, trashy, like, Roth dialogue, like with Cabin Fever Hostel, but there's way less compared to part one of this movie. They far less annoying characters. The characters are a little better in this movie than they were in the first film. Yeah, like, because, like, I'm sorry, but Paxton was a cool character, but characters like Ollie in part one annoy the shit out of me so much. Like, I was glad when Ollie's ass died first, so. Yeah, but Hostel's first one was a very flawed movie, made tolerable by a simple fact. The main idea about people paying to torture, kill people is a very good one, very disturbing concept. The brief screen time that storyline occupied the movie made it worthwhile. That movie was a 6 out of 10 at best. Sure, it was gory, fun, a great storyline. But the problem was the first half of that movie was the worst. Having to get through the first half of that movie is really irritating. I did not care about a group of American college idiots going to Europe to have party and have sex. It was basically just rehashing the characters from Cabin Fever, just only 3 of them this time. Not only were they irritating as hell, but they never even seemed believable. I mean, Paxton does get better in the final half of the movie. And, I will admit, I don't really like this opening scene, because I kind of agree. It's kind of pointless to bring back Paxton if you're just going to kill him off. Like, if you really wanted to kill off Paxton, then I kind of wish they just killed him off in the hospital scene, and would have been a bit of a better send-off to him. I mean, but I do know what Eli Roth was trying to go for. I mean, he's trying to show that you can never escape the Eli Hunting Club no matter where you go. They'll find you regardless, and they'll still kill you anyway. So, I did like that for a reason. Like, I decided to give Hostel Part 2. When I first saw Hostel Part 2, I was not a big fan of it at first, but as more and more I've watched it, I like this movie much better than the first one. A lot. I especially, like, it seems like a bit of a kind of a hard thing. Would Eli Roth follow Survivor the original or follow a new group of people altogether? He does kind of both. Like, Paxton makes an appearance only for, like, the first scene of the movie, and he's killed off straight away. And the major storyline then goes to a group of girls off to Slovakia to go to a spa and kind of study art. And it's with these 3 lead characters, like, Hostel Part 2 really succeeds. Like, these 3 are actually likable, they're believable, they're not annoying, they're actually mature in this one. We have the normal one, like the party-loving one, also the sweet and concerning, slightly irritating one. They actually seem like real people. So by the time the party face the events begin, we feel for them. And I also love the subplot involving these two members of the Eli Hunting Club. Like, I like that Eli Roth decided to also have a subplot of 2 of the guys. While the Eli Hunting Club, one's ready to do it. He's ready to sadistically torture a victim. The other one is a little nervous, but he decides to give it a try for his best friend. Eventually, once they're all done and getting ready to torture their victims, they swap the roles. The very sadistic one gets ready to torture, but as soon as he drills his victim's head in, he immediately freaks out and he leaves only to be killed by dogs for backing out like a coward. And it just shows that, but the pussy guy ends up becoming the sadistic one. So I like that with Eli Roth. I like how he's, like, had these 2 characters and he swapped the roles straight away once they were finally had to get their victims. Once they got their victims, like, I really love that Eli Roth swapped the roles, and I was pretty genius with this subplot. Like Hostel Part 2 is kind of a rare thing in the horror genre, a sequel that surpasses the original. It might not be as gory in my opinion, but it's kind of like, this one kind of goes a little more over the top and kind of a little more comedic at times. I mean slightly, oh wait, no. I mean, this one actually goes a lot more serious than any of Eli Roth's other movies, and might not be as gore. It's more horrific, more scary, and a lot better movie than the original ever was. Like, the script is better, Orphan Delights of violence are more intense, and Eli Roth wisely creates sympathy for certain characters and turns the monsters loose. Therefore, well, it's much more fun. Also, Part 2 understands that character plot, and each and every character is spot on through definition development. It's actually quite shocked how impressive the characterizations are. Like, there's not as much disgusting scenes as Part 1 did. I mean, the gore wasn't nearly as effective to me. I mean, I will admit that. But there are still some massive gory scenes. Like, they kind of took this idea of, like, ever heard this? Like, seriously, like, I mean, there's still this, the slightly annoying girl is killed first, which is kind of a shame because I kind of wish they didn't kill the nice one first. Because I think this one was kind of the nicest of the group. Like, she's hung upside down naked. This other female Eli Hunting Club member comes in, also gets naked, slices her away with a hook. Yeah, and then the party-loving one actually does, like, try to escape, but she gets recaptured and she's not killed. I mean, then she's just chained to a chair. And when, like, at first, tough guy, who thinks he's tough, but he's actually turns out to be a pussy when he accidentally puts the buzzsaw in her head. And then she's killed by the, at first, wimp guy who becomes the sadistic guy instead. And so yeah, the Party 11 one actually only dies near the end, so it's not as rehashed. And the other thing I don't really like is the ending. I mean, as much as I like this movie over Part 1 still definitely had a much better ending, and more of a proper ending than Part 2 did. I mean, Part 2 only ends like this, and basically, the main girl escapes, traps the new sadistic guy, who was actually the one who was going to kill her, to her chair, and when she tries to get out the passcode, she guesses the one, it fails, and it ends up attracting security, because after Paxton's escape, they obviously now have security, and security owner come in. They see this, and somehow we find out this main girl's actually apparently rich for some reason, and then she just offers to buy her way out, but the owner tells her that she has to kill someone to leave. And I'm sorry, what? Like, isn't this girl supposed to be a victim of you guys? I really don't think Eli Hunting Club would really buy into one of their victims having so much money and actually buying their way out. But so, the sadistic guy insults her, and she cuts off this private and leaves him to bleed to death, and then she gets a tattoo on her lower back and becomes a member of the Eli Hunting Club, and then she just beheads the girl that led them to that place and got her friends killed. And then the bubblegum kids from the first film play soccer with her head. And I'm sorry, that was probably a big what the fuck moment in cinema. But yeah, despite this being a better sequel, I think the ending is a massive letdown. I really wish they could have picked a way better ending than that abrupt one. It kind of just feels like Rob just wanted to get the movie done. But other than that, despite those flaws, really could have used a better ending. This is a better sequel than the first film. And I think it improves everything from the first film so much better. I would watch this would wish this were the first film, to be honest. I mean, but honestly, in my opinion, I like it, and here's how I'm going to rank it. I am going to give Hostel Part 2 an 8 out of 10. Alright, and that wraps up Hostel Part 2. So, I'll put Hostel Part 2 back. There we go. Now that Hostel Part 2 is finished, what's going to be Episode 4? Well, Episode 4 is for yet another 2005 horror movie. It's a not a sadistic one. Yes, unfortunately, it is a PG-13 one, but it's a PG-13 one I actually like and I find very underappreciated. And it was back when Kate Hudson actually seemed like she gave a shit about the film she played in, and when she actually tried to make good movies. Yeah, the next horror movie review is gonna be for an underrated personal favorite of mine, The Skeleton Key. Yeah, set in Louisiana, New Orleans, in the swamps. Yeah, like that one's a personal favorite of mine. And can't wait to actually talk about it. But until then, that'll be it for this episode. Thank you all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, and don't forget to like, subscribe to Movie Lover 120.